So welcome all. This is the second session of the Women in Automation series held by UiPath Community in order to mark and honor the International Women's Day. This second session is the first session of Introduction to Studio. So it begins with RPA Developer Foundation, the course in Academy. And our trainer for today's session is our MVP, Maria Irimias, which is Service Delivery Manager and Solution Architect for Accessa, and she is from Cluj, Romania. So please welcome Maria and enjoy the session today.
Hi, thank you, Christina, for the introduction. And hi to all. Give me 1 minute to start sharing the screen so that we are all prepared. I hope that you see the screen and everything is fine.
Yes.
Perfect. Today, we will go into the first part of the studio introduction, which will be covered in more depth also tomorrow by one of my colleagues, also an MVP. Today, we will focus on the introduction session, and it will be an introduction of the RPA platform offered by UiPath, and from my personal perspective, because I have behind several years in development from other technologies, and it's my personal touch on it. So thank you again for choosing to spend the following minutes together to dive into the world of RPA. As you can see for today, this is the agenda which I have prepared. It will cover a short introduction about myself, jumping afterwards into the RPA, a benefits overview of the RPA technology, and then why I chose RPA and UiPath. And on the last part, I will deep dive into the UiPath platform and what it has to offer. And I will encourage to stay tuned till the end, since I have also prepared a short demo, some quizzes, and I will guide you on how to start your own automation journey if you are willing to dare together with me today. And the last, it will be the Q&A session, which will be open, but I think that also we have the chat here. And if you have any question, do not hesitate to add them in the chat, and we will cover them one by one in the end. As an introduction, as Christina just mentioned, I'm a software architect and service delivery manager at Accessa. I have 17 years of experience in software development. 3 years ago, I chose to switch boats from .NET to RPA world. And I'm happy to say that last year I became one of the UiPath MVPs. And as it was mentioned a few days ago also by UiPath, I compared my experience from last year as a roller coaster. It was full of emotions, and I really enjoy that I can repeat this experience also today. And I also want to thank UiPath for providing me this opportunity to be here to share with you my eagerness and why I'm so fond on RPA and what it means to me and how I can see its potential. I'm proud to say, as I just mentioned, that I'm part of the UiPath community, which is a very big ecosystem of more than 1.5 million professionals and citizen developers who are working together in growing their careers, also myself included. UiPath offers an academy program which allows you to freely learn the skills of the futures, and has a lot of events like this one, which allows you to connect with like-minded people and share some best practices of this technology. In the same time, I'm also part of the Accessa community as an active leader in the RPA area. Just a few words about Accessa. It is part of the Rpa Data Group, and it is a leading technology company which is headquartered in Cluj-Napoca, where I'm currently in. So I'm the single MVP Romanian girl and women. But now let's jump into the RPA topic, since we all joined here for this. And I will start by providing you an introduction of what RPA is. And here it's just a big overview about RPA and from where it is coming. So RPA, it is nothing less than the acronym for Robotic Process Automation. Robotic is an entity with the capabilities to mimic the human action. The process is the sequence of steps that lead to meaningful activity or task, and automation means that that task automatically happen without the human intervention. Simply put, RPA, or Robotic Process Automation, is the technology that enables computer software to emulate and integrate actions typically performed by humans interacting with the digital systems. Actually, it just aims at automating what a human can do with their hands and eyes. So if you can do it as a human, also RPA can do it. It's not the easiest thing of all the time, but it's what RPA is, it is built for, and it can be achieved. A lot of people, when they hear about the RPA, they do think about the robots which are able to talk or walk, or even to warehouses robots. But on the following slide, I will provide you a clear overview why RPA, it is not any of this, but it instead a software assistant which gives time back. Basically, it's your own personal assistant, because UiPath had a lot of focus also in the last years to provide you with this experience, to be able as a citizen to develop your own automation, not only as a technical person. The benefits are major, and RPA robots provide no mistakes, and they are not resting. They can run 24/7. We are tired sometimes, and we are making mistakes as human. But once a robot has been configured to follow the process, it will not grow tired and won't take any liberties regarding the steps which was taught to do or instructed to do, basically. It will not get bored because he will just do what it is told to do, and it's very quick to implement and powerful to scale. These are just the basic overview of the benefits. Simply put, it increases execution type, enhances accuracy, and reduces the process execution costs. But how I said, these are just 4 main benefits. The rest are will be held for you to be discovered, but these are the most trivial, and the fact that it's so easy to implement, from my point of view, it's a big advantage. Here we can see the departments where RPA can be founded and where RPA can be used as a technology to automate the business processes. We can find it in education, in the supply chain, in IT, in HR departments, client services, accounting, and even operation. But do not stop to think also of these mentioned departments, because there are even more. Here is just a brief overview of what RPA can do. But now let's jump on my personal why RPA with UiPath, because as I mentioned, I have 17 years of software development, 15 of which were spent in developing software with .NET. But for me, RPA is a cutting-edge technology, and I see it as a startup challenge. It is less technical in comparison to the other technologies like .NET and Java, but you won't be developing the software, but you will automate processes that will be used to drive faster end-to-end customer journey and improve that experience for the customer. In the world of RPA, you are more involved in the business than as an experienced developer from Java or .NET, for example, but still you can apply, and I am applying all the software engineer principles which I have learned in RPA, so that I enforce governance, clean code, and unit testable processes. I work as an RPA developer, and I must say that I really enjoy it because I can see the benefits of it, and my work will be very fast put in production, and I feel a sense of gratification when these processes met the client expectation and they are successfully deployed in production and bring the benefits the customer was expecting to do it. RPA is cool also from the perspective that he was enhanced with intelligence, and now you can build intelligent robots, but also intelligent process discoveries. But even though this has been done, RPA is not for everyone from my point of view. I consider that the individuals with great attention to detail, which are driven by curiosity, analytical, and very problem solving, are those who will very much enjoy working in RPA and developing these processes. In very simple words, why from all the tools in the world I have chose RPA with UiPath? It's very simple. As we can see from Gartner, UiPath is one of the leaders in RPA. It offers a platform which allows you to go beyond RPA. It's not just automation, but it will go in hyper automation. And I will explain you what a hyper automation means and how it is achieved by UiPath in the following slides. Just have a little bit of patience. Here, as I mentioned, UiPath is a very big ecosystem, a very big platform, which allows you to grow in this ecosystem. It provides you a very brilliant technical consultancy. It has the pre-built integration and has an open market with a lot of integrations, but allows you in the same time to scale the processes into the hyper automation as mentioned. And hyper automation is just a framework and a set of advanced technologies which allows you to scale the automation in an enterprise. I can mention between those advanced technologies, process mining. Here, UiPath has process discovery with process mining, which helps you to automatically discover the business processes which can be automized, and bring you an overview of how those automation processes can be also optimized. But it will not stop there. UiPath platforms allow you to build intelligent robots, to use machine learning, to build automation for document understanding. And also it has a focus on building no-code, low-code applications, so that if it is needed to have user input to be able to build an application very easily. And here, basically, I wanted to get engaged with you, so I prepared a small quiz. You can put your answer in the chat and I will open it. For the first question which I prepare is, what is RPA? It is the technology that enables a software program to mimic human action, or it is an identical to a warehouse robot, or RPA comes from repetitive process automation. What do you think? Yes, A is the correct answer. Thank you for joining me in this quiz. The second part of the quiz is, what are the major advantages of RPA? It increases execution speed, error prone, reduce cost of execution, or is increase the execution speed, enhance accuracy, reduce cost of process execution, or the third option is increase execution speed, enhances accuracy, but it's slow to implement. Yes, the correct answer is B. Thank you again for filling in the quiz. Going further, I will now jump into more of what UiPath really is and how you can start your automation journey with UiPath. And I will start with first mentioning that UiPath created this ecosystem to nurture automation first and to accelerate human achievements. It was said that Bill Gates envisioned a world with a PC for every desktop, while UiPath, as I see it, envisions a world with a robot for every person. When every person has a robot to help with the mundane task, it frees them up to use that time for higher level work. This is from personal perspective as a person which you can do for yourself, but in business and cooperation, this technology allows to very much automate all the business and reduce the cost of it. It will help humans to work together with robots and allow the human to be focused on an intelligent act. UiPath didn't stop, as I mentioned, just to build some automation, but those automation are enhanced with built-in machine learning skills so that they are providing now also AI. So it's not just rule-based automation, but it's AI-based automation with judgment tasks which can be achieved by the robots. Going first, this is the platform which UiPath envisioned. As I mentioned, there are several phases and the platform covers them all with AI capabilities, from the phase of discovery of the automation processes, which you have the tools to do them manually and also automatically with process mining and task mining, to the building of those automation, which is provided by the UiPath Studio, then to manage, to securely deploy your automation, to run them. You will have the automation hub together with the robots on the running phase. And then if they are needed, human in the loop to be able to continue a robot's work, you can engage with the robots with your Action Center. And as I mentioned, through the applications, you can build low-code, no-code applications. And in the end, you can measure all the automations and you can see if they are successful automation for you with the Insight tool. As core components of UiPath, from a developer's perspective, you will have the UiPath Studio, which is the advanced tool that enables you to design the automation processes. It is a tool which allows you to build them in a visual manner through diagrams. You have then the Orchestrator, which is a web manager, which allows you to manage all their automations and then to execute them with the robots. I will go in more details in the following steps. This is how UiPath is looking like. Is the developer design automation. Here a developer can build them. Any kind of automation from simple tasks to robots which are enhanced with AI is the same tool, but different approaches. It's very powerful from my perspective. It's very user-friendly. It's very custom with different ideas, which we are already used with as a technical perspective. Otherwise, you can also choose to have a different view of the UiPath. This is the UiPath Studio, but if you are just a citizen developer, you have the profile of UiPath Studio X, which is an easier to understand IDE profile of it, and it allows you to do the automations. The UiPath Orchestrator is the web-based manager. As UiPath mentions, it is the heart of the automation management because it actually gives you the power to deploy trigger, monitor, measure, and you can track here all the robots and all the jobs which they had, if they have failed, why they have failed. You can look at the exception logs. You can see how many, trigger them automatically based on a schedule. It's you to play and to decide which is the best approach based on the automation need. And last but not least, we have the robots, are those tools which will run the automation on a computer. It can be in an attended manner. Basically, on your machine, you say, start this job for me, and you can see how it is running on a picture-in-picture approach or directly on your machine, and you can just stand there and see how it is running in a hybrid way. Some parts are run unattended, but when is needed, he will ask for you for an input, and afterwards he will be able to continue his job in the same unattended manner, or if you want attendedly, or completely unattended, so that you can work your tasks on your machine, and on another machine, the robot will run the automations, and when he will finish up the completed task, he will report you with the status so that you can analyze his job. Now, if you would like, I invite you to start your automation journey now. If you are doing it, you can go and start by creating a single account. You have an automation cloud, and as a community user, you have it for free with one tenant. You just have to sign up with the account. Christina will put in the chat the link from the page where you can sign up. You just have to provide some details. If you do not have one of Google account, Microsoft, or LinkedIn, just continue with and registering to the mail. There you will be prompted, or you will have on the right side the option to download UiPath Studio. It will be an MSI. When will be downloaded, we can work together and explain you which are the steps. Are very easy. But while it is downloading, I will go and explain a bit more how you can install it. Basically, it's a simple installation part. You download it. Once it is downloaded, you will double click on it. There you'll be prompted to sign in. On the signing in, you will have to complete the browser URL. And once that's finalized, you are signed in. And then a blue screen will be shown to you to choose between the version of UiPath Studio Profile, Studio X, Studio, or Studio Pro. In this case, I will go with Studio because I'm from a technical background, and this is the most useful for me. You can go in the same manner to start with Studio X. If you want to go step by step with what I will do and play with it, I just suggest you to choose the Studio profile, but at any moment, there is a setting in Studio where you can switch the profile you want to choose from Studio to Studio X. So even if you choose now Studio, you are not bound to it. You can choose it and at any moment Studio X. So now I will go and explain you a bit while you are doing all that stuff, a bit on how basically UiPath is looking as a studio. This is the default layout, which you see now. On the left side, you are seeing the activities panel is the panel where you have all the activities which are depending on those processes from where you can choose. But those activities are just a default set of activities. You can enhance the set of activities you are using in one automation by going to the manage packages and then install new packages which are built by you or are provided by UiPath and by UiPath Marketplace. So you have there the activities which allows you to instruct the robot what to do. On the project tab on the same part, you have the project sequences which you have built. And going on the center, is the main designer panel, where you will drag activities from the left side or double click, depending on how you will choose. On the right side, there is the properties panel, where you have special properties for each action which you intend to instruct the robot to do. Naming, text, depending on the activity itself, it has different properties. Basically, it's a context-based property panel based on the selected activity. On the lower part of the window, there is the output window, which allows you to see how your automation runs. There are some default logs there, but in the same time, you can add your own logs or some messages which you want to track and to see the sanity of your automation. UiPath also allows you to have debugging functionality on the studio. You have an immediate window, a watch window, from where you can see the values of the variables which are involved on your automation part. This is the big overview. I hope that still now you managed to do the automation, and now I want to go and switch directly into the UiPath and show you a first hello world part of it. Let me just go and switch my screen to a hello world. Basically, I prepared already a project for this one. You can go and from here, new sequence, add a sequence. I created now a new test sequence, and from the activities part, I can search for what activities I want to put. If I want, for example, to show you a simple hello world, I just go and display a message box. I will drag and drop it from here, and I will say, please output this message. My first automation. Now I have also the validation. As you saw before inputting the text, it was mentioned for me that I need to provide the text. Once I'm done, I can go debug this file or directly run it. For me, I do not need to debug it because it's one sequence and it's not important. I can just run the process. We will have here the executor, which will open. You can see it in green because I have two screens. My message box was displayed on the second one, but just let's bring it here. And we have a window with the message outputted. What is very fast for a lot of people is to do recording of the screens. And I think that on the next section, which will be more in-depth introduction to Studio, you can learn, or you can go to the UiPath Foundation and learn about all the functionality which are included in Studio, because everything will be covered, from data variables to data tables to recordings. What are the basic differences between basic recording, desktop recording, and web recorder? Because it's very nice to use those functionality. It actually allows you to record your action on the screen, like doing an entire process, and afterwards the recording of the screen will be outputted in instructions already for you. All the steps which you provided will be transformed into instruction, into actions, which you will just have to overview and verify if they are properly built. In the same time, you can go and scrape the screens on a browser, for example. We will do that on the next demo, which I prepared. It's how to simple screen scraping. And we will also use the UiPath Explorer, which allows you to uniquely identify the elements from the screen. And I will show you how I best chose those uniquely identification of each element and which are some best practices on that direction. UiPath Studio is integrated with source control, so you can track the history of the automations. So you can integrate it with Git, TFS, SVN. And from this simple button, you can publish your automation, basically deploy it on Orchestrator if you choose, or deploy it locally, depending on how you choose. But a default, when you connect to the Orchestrator, to the tenant, it will be published directly to the Orchestrator. And then from your UiPath Assistant, this is my UiPath Assistant, you can see all your automation which you have published, and in the attended manner, basically you are using this assistant and just start the jobs when you want. But now let's focus on some best practices. Let me just minimize the screen. And because here I want first to give you more time if you want to finalize the installation of UiPath, and before going to a real demo on screen scraping, a simple one. In this case, I want to guide you through some best practices on how to think of an automation. Because as I mentioned, even if you are doing RPA, all the best practices which you are custom in software development are relevant also for RPA. One of those practices from my point of view is design before building, to analyze the process, to identify properly the requirements, and to plan the solution, how it will look like before actually running and building the automation. This, from my perspective, is the first step, and it's very important because once you understand what your automation should do, you will know to build it in such a manner that will be very scalable, maybe, because in a lot of cases, one automation can be part of a bigger business process, and in the end, you have to think of the bigger picture to automate the entire enterprise and not just a small task. Go to hyper automation. Then to easily split and to reuse your components, it is indicated to break the processes into smaller components. In that manner, you are better understanding the code. You can build independent testing and, how I mentioned, build reusable components. In the end, this can also have an impact on the effectiveness, as different team members can work on different and smaller workflows. This is just a starting point, for example, how to use the components. You can reuse some of this functionality which you already split, but as I mentioned, all the automation can be enhanced with libraries by creating your own libraries where you are creating and storing reusable components, or using libraries already built and put there for your disposal by UiPath and other UiPath community members who registered their components on the marketplace. I recommend to use folder in the project so that you are grouping the project into different folders based on the target application. It's very easily to read and to understand in that manner. And to follow a naming convention, keep it consistent across the project and across, if you are working on a bigger team, across the entire center of excellence, actually on the entire team. To configure the arguments correctly, not to put every variable but as argument, but use the correct type of argument. If it's an input argument, an output argument, input or output argument, when you actually work with workflows and you are invoking them from one part to the other. For the naming convention, UiPath recommend Pascal cases and to have a prefix here within a dash and the name of the argument. But this is just a recommendation from UiPath. It's not that you have to stick with it. My recommendation is to follow the same name convention to all the automation to be easily understood by everyone. One important part is the sensitive data. Take good care of it, not to put the credentials in plain text to secure that data so that data is properly used with Windows credential or on Orchestrator assets, but not to have hard-coded passwords or other sensitive data in the automations. And also the other part which you will learn in the part is how to handle the exception, because yes, as in every software, exceptions are a part of the RPA automation. They are mainly grouped in two exceptions. They are the system exception, where you are not able to interact with the system which you want to automate, and the business exception. Business exception are those which are from the business interaction, understanding of the process. For example, if you have an input file and that input is well agreed with the business, and you are running the automation based on how that input file is looking, but in the next run of the automation, the business decides, I don't know, to switch some key members which you are built your automation on, and based on that switch, basically you are not meeting, you are not able to run your automation. So that's a business exception, because something changed from the business perspective of your automation. You have to understand it and to deal with it. Either you update the process to handle the new format, to handle both of the formats, or you just have to go back to the stakeholders to say that the format is not the one which is expected, and he has to update the format for that automation. Last but not least, we have to handle the exception also at the global part, because some exception might be thrown and you are not able to catch them neither by system or by business exceptions. So there is also a global exception handle provided, which allows you to handle also those exceptions so that you do not block your robot, let it be stuck in one place and your automation to not be able to finish, even if it's unsuccessful finish, but just to finish his job so that the robot is able to trigger the other jobs which are in the pipeline. And yes, make your project easy to read. It's add annotation to clarify the purpose if it's needed. And when you look at automation, even if it's based on a sequence of steps which are one after the other in a sequential way, or as a flowchart with decision making there and decision blocks, make it readable so you can understand from at the first glance what you meant there, so that it's also easy to maintain in the future. Use logging, because logging is very useful. For example, when you are in production and you do not have access on debugging, and you have your robot failing for some kind of problem, use the logs to get all the relevant information regarding all the critical moments from the automation. And yes, what was provided by UiPath on the last edition was the workflow analyzer. There is a set of rules which you can extend and custom to your basically coding standard, but you have that analyzer which allows you to check the sanity of the automation if you respected all the best practices which are recommended by UiPath. So I really like those development rules which are defined by UiPath. And what is nice, as in any other technology, you can enhance it with your own rules. With that being said, I think that I covered some basics here, and I just wish you happy automation. Now I can go and provide you a more in-depth demo on how to scrape the screen. Basically, UiPath on the UiPath Foundation has prepared a first automation, for example, demo. You can find it also there if you will go. Is the unicorn name sample. I will just do it one step by step with you here, and I will explain it what is there and how you can achieve this automation. In the same part, you can find it in the UiPath documentation as creating your first automation project. Basically, what is here, you have a web page with several inputs required from the user, which will provide you a unicorn name. In this part of the screen. If you provide the name and optionally a month for your birthday, you press the button Get Name. You will have here the unicorn name provided. What we will do basically, because only your name is mandatory, we will go identify this text box where we have to fill in a name. We will build the sequence to type in automatically here a name. We will guide the robot or the automation. We will create an instruction to press the button and to return us this name. This automatically will be done in 3 steps. Basically, here we will go to that page, RPA samples.com unicorn name. That's the web page where you can find the automation. As I mentioned, you type your name, you press the get button, the get name, and you will have the unicorn name. On our solution, what we will do, we will use some activities. Here I provided the steps of the activities, but I will do them one by one also now with you. You will just have the using of browser to say to my robot, hey, I'm using a browser. With that browser, go and open the URL http rpasamples.com unicorn name. On that page, go and type into the element identified as text for name. Put there the name I will put. In this case, I will hard code one, even if it's not the way to do it in real life automation. You do not hard code text. You are using configuration files or input files to take your input. Then I will use the click activity to press the get button. And with get text activity, I will get the name, which is indicated in that element. And afterwards, in this, I can use a log message or a message box as I showed to you in the hello world. And then we will just run the process and see how it can be done step by step. Let me just switch to the UiPath Studio. Close this part. This was the unit test. For example, I have already created one page, but let's create a new sequence to show you how you can identify the elements, where it is useful, the UI Explorer, how I mentioned, and how they are from the attributes of each element to identify and choose the correct ones. Basically, as I mentioned, first we have to go on the application and to have the browser. Here, for example, I chose the wrong one. I have to choose the scope, browser, open browser application. Basically, I want to open a browser. The browser here has the properties. It has the open browser. If you want to continue on errors, which type of browser, for example, whatever extension you have. By default, UiPath is integrated with Internet Explorer, and you do not have to install an extension for it. But for the other browser, in order to be compatible for Chrome and allow scraping with Chrome, you have to install an extension. It is very easy to install, and UiPath provides guidance for that. I will not go there at the moment. I will choose, for simplicity, the UiPath browser. I will go and say, hey, I want to open this page because it's a demo. As I mentioned, I will use directly hard copy text. I will not use variables. I will not read my input from an input file, but I will hard code everything. But this just for the demo purposes. Once you do that, your window is open. Now, for example, I can run my automation because it will run. What will do? It will open the browser and will navigate to this page. This was what I instructed him to do. And then because there was none instruction, he just closed the automation and my browser was open at the specified page. I wanted to do that because then I want to go and open the Explorer. Once my Explorer is opened, I will show you how we can identify the elements from this page. Now my Explorer was open and I can go and identify the element here. As you can see, with indicate element, I'm choosing the element. And we can see a lot of properties of that element. Who is the parent of that element? And we see that is the web page with the name find unicorn name. And here we have different properties of those elements. For example, I always try to find here some properties which are uniquely identifying my element. In this case, I think that an ID with text name is a very good candidate as uniquely identifying my element from the screen. So now I can say that, okay, I will use this identification when identifying the text name. And on my automation, because there is a text box, I have to insert a text. I will go and search for a set text control. Drag and drop, and I have to insert a text. I can go and now indicate the element. Which element? I want this element. Here it will provide me the default attributes, but I do not want that. And by choosing to edit, I can just do what I just mentioned to you. I want to uniquely identify this selector with the ID property, which is this one. And now I just chosen the element which will be identified by this activity. And in this activity, what I just have to do is provide a name. Please go and type there my name. And I just write it the first part of the instruction. I can go. Let's close it not to have multiple session at the moment because we didn't handle the closing of the web browser and see what it's doing. He should go open the browser and type the name. Once he finished, he just stopped. And if I open Internet Explorer, you can see that in the text field, my name appeared as I instructed the robot to do. The next steps I have to do is click here on the text button, and I will do the same steps I just done. I will look for the activity which will be able to press, mimic the pressing of the button actually, and I will choose click button. I will indicate the element. Because I do not have my Internet Explorer open, I have to do it to open it again. I will run the process to do that so that we will do this and we will have Internet Explorer open. Now we have it, and now I can go and indicate the element. We identify the element because I want to make sure it's properly identified. I will edit the selector directly here if I know exactly the properties, if I have the Explorer open. If not, I can go and open it in Explorer. You have different approaches how to handle with all those properties. In the same time, I go and try to find the attribute which uniquely identifies my element on the page, and in the same manner I will choose in this case the ID because it has a unique name. I will put save, and then what I have to do is to run it so that I will have generated on the page the name so that I can get the text for it. As we can see, the name was generated. Now what I can do, I will use a separate instruction, which is get text. because it's a sequential instruction of steps. First, open the browser, then input the text, then press the button and text, then get that label. There is no condition needed. It's a sequence one by one after the other instructions are done to the robot. I'm indicating the element, which uniquely identifies the element from where I need to get my unicorn name. And I'm making sure that it's uniquely identified. If I'm not doing that, if I will just let it as it is default, for example, it will just go and look for a control in my page, which has a tag span, and there can be several elements with that attributes. And in that case, the robot will not do exactly what I will do. I was instructing, I would have been expected for the robot to do, but he will press on the first element on the web page he will find with the attributes I provided. In that case, it was default just span. If there were two elements on the page with span, it will have chosen the first one, take the text for it, and I would have a wrong implemented automation. So that for the automation part, it is very important when you work with application to make sure that you uniquely identify your elements. And actually, you will look and you will see on the foundation, there are also ways to build your selectors in such a manner that they are not depending on how they are set on the UI. If you are not able to identify uniquely those elements with the attributes which are finding it here, you can relate them to other elements which can be uniquely identified, and that is called anchoring. But more on that, go and look into foundation part of the training. UiPath allows you to learn for free and has free courses which will teach you from A to Z what RPA is, and will translate the entire technology in a few weeks for you. For example, the RPA Foundation Training, it's 32 hours. Then it's the advanced part, which I think is 1 week and a half, depending on your speed of development. It has also architect courses, business analyst courses. They are specialized by role. Infrastructure courses for orchestrator, you can find everything, and they are for free. Academy provides it there. You just, and it's in one place. You just have to want to learn, basically. Now going further, once I identify my element, I just have to save the value of what this activity provides me. Basically, as I can see here, this activity, besides identifying the element, it provides me as an output a value. This value, I have to store it somewhere. And I can create a variable here directly, like this. For example, I provide the string and its scope. I want to have a higher scope to be at the entire work sequence scope. I can do like this, declaring of the variable, or if I go and choose my activity, there are shortcuts like Control-K in this case, and you can set the variable directly here and will be automatically defined. For example, as in this example, the second variable which I'm providing as naming is not a best practice naming, because you are not able to understand what label UN means for. I do recommend when you are naming the variables and the arguments to have proper names or what they are meant to do, and also be also cautious on their scope. You can restrict their scope to where they are used, not to have more span that is needed. In this case, I will delete these two because they were just exemplary. And what I have to do here, because it was mentioned, there is no output variable because I deleted. I just have to make sure that I assign the correct variable. And now there is no error on the validation side. What we can see, we have obtained our name, but we have to do something with that name. Usually you will have to add another sequence to do something with it. In this case, I just want to have a log message with it. I don't want to have a message box, for example. Just let's see a log message. So I can show you these steps also in the output window. I will put the level as info, and I just want to put a text on the message, and then the variable. And basically now I can run the automation. I just closed the windows which will remain open. And now we can go and see step by step how the robot executes. And for example, the name was Twilight Twinkle Sweet. And let's see on the output what it was here. Basically, we have default log messages, which you can see were added by the framework itself that the automation started. It logged the message I instructed to do. This is my unicorn name and the value which I obtain and the execution needed for it. For example, let's go and put here another value just to make sure that on the next run, we will obtain a different unicorn name, and we can run it again. And we will see. And as you can see, it's a cheerful feather wind, and it was updated. So from my side, from an intro in UiPath, I think that will be all. What I have prepared for you as next is a small quiz as an ending part. More on details on the resources where you can dig. And then we have the Q&A session. Let me first switch to the presentation and to go to the pages, which have just done that. And now we have the quiz part. And this is our last quiz for today. And thank you that you stayed tuned with me till the end. The first question of the quiz is, which are the UiPath core components? It's Studio Orchestrator Executor, Studio Manager Robot, or Studio Orchestrator Robot. Some are yes, some are no. Yeah, the answer is the Studio Orchestrator Robot. Executor is the one who executed, but as core component is a robot. The executor is just a part of the robot who executes the job. How is called the UiPath Development Learning Platform? It is UiPath Academy, UiPath Community, or UiPath Citizen Developer. It is yes, UiPath Academy. UiPath Community is the place where you can find more on the events, where you can ask questions about what you do not understand, where you can find already answers of a lot of questions. But the Learning Academy and platform is the UiPath Academy, where you have all the courses available and are free for you. You just have to make some time or squeeze some time if this session made you at least curious. Here are the links, basically, for the UiPath Academy. And to find more, I do say that you can start with the UiPath Foundation. if you do not know anything about RPA, that's a good starting point. It teaches you about variables, arguments, recorders, and all what you have seen today, and it's in more depth there. Thank you very much, and I wish you an amazing day.
Wait a bit, because we have one or two questions.
But that was for the session, and yes, now is the Q&A. We didn't forget it.
So first, let me give you guys all the links that Maria mentioned now, because she mentioned Academy, and of course I gave you directly the link to the RPA Developer Foundation. So the RPA Developer Foundation goes directly in parallel to what Maria presented today. So this what Maria did is actually the intro to the intro course from the RPA Developer Foundation. So you can just start off and continue there in Academy from this foundation that you got today live from Maria, which was very great. And I saw your feedback was good too. For help and assistance, I will give you the link to UiPath forum. So as you go through the courses in Academy, of course, you will encounter problems. Maybe you will get stuck at some point. You will not know how to solve an issue. Go to forum. Find the thread for Studio and that certain issue that you find, and ask in that certain thread on forum, and you will be helped by other people on forum, either MVPs, either peers from our community. So the forum is the place to go where you want answers and support, and is a very great asset in UiPath community. So please use it. And last but not least, our community hub, where you will find all upcoming events, all our chapters, local and global chapters. And you can sign up to the chapters to be in line with the events. And where we have also all these links linked into this community hub. So you will find here Academy, Forum, Marketplace, all our programs in community. Just explore the community hub and choose whatever catches your eye, whatever you think might help. And you can also contact us anytime at community@uipath.com, whether you have questions or need directions. Yes, I hope you enjoyed it too. And now let's dive a bit into Q&A. We have one question from Carmen. Let me see. Carmen asks whether open browser is the same that use application/browser.
Application, it's specific mostly on not a browser application, but a standalone application which oriented. So for example, Excel. You will use open application when you want to open Excel file. For example, if you want to interact with Excel as through UI, but you will have activities which allows you with Excel, for example, to work behind the scene, and whenever you need and you have the opportunity to work behind the scenes, not through UI. I recommend to do that because it's less provides you less errors, because on the UI you have the challenge of finding and uniquely identifying the elements. If you go behind the scene, there are capabilities which allows you to more securely and more safely interact with the automation.
Okay, because Carmen mentions that she doesn't have open browser in her activities menu.
Yes, you let me just go back to the screen. As I mentioned, in your automation and what your activities you have, they are dependent, they are very much dependent on the packages of the dependencies which you are using. If you are not having all of them, you can install them with the package explorer. You have here settings, and you can define on the settings page from where to find your packages, from UiPath library, locally if you have built your own, and based on that you can install different packages, and based on the packages you will have different activities. If you work with Excel, you will have Excel activity. For example, if you want to send emails with your activities, you will have to have mail activity. There is a default set of dependencies when you first start Studio, but if you do not have them, do go and extend your dependencies with this part, because it depends on that. Basically, your activities will depend on the packages you are relying on to build your automation.
Okay, we have another question from AK. He's asking, does business analysts use UiPath Studio or they tend to use more of UiPath Studio X? So do business analysts use Studio or Studio X?
I'm not a business analyst, but from where I know, UiPath Studio X is used more from the business perspective and for the citizen perspective. And I do tend to think that they are using Studio X. And as I mentioned, you can switch from the profiles. On the settings part, you have the license and profile, and you can choose change profile. It's Studio or Studio X. And now, for example, I can go here, and my studio will restart with that profile, and I can work as the same I mentioned with Studio X.
Yeah,
so it's very easy. Yes.
Yeah. So just for all of you guys who don't know the distinction, actually, so Studio X is our product for citizen developers who have no previous coding or technical computer science experience. So practically Studio X can be adopted by anyone. It's a no-code platform, very easy to adopt. Studio is, of course, for those who have a little bit of experience in computer science.
And the automation which are built with Studio X are migrated to Studio if you open them with Studio. So that's also made possible with UiPath.
That's a great answer from your part, Maria, and great addition. Thank you. Any other questions besides from AK and Carmen? AK, I hope that answered your question. And as you go through the business analyst course, which I shared the link from Academy, I think you will find the rest of the answers to your question.
And UiPath also has a course in the Academy related to Studio X.
Yes, we have Citizen Developer Foundation is the foundation, the same type of foundation, only for Studio X. No, he's asking whether we will have sessions for business analyst course. We will consider that for the learners chapter. So make sure all of you have joined this chapter, learners chapter in UiPath. I will also give you the link for the chapter now. Just wait a bit, and I will share the link to the chapter so you can join the chapter as well. Yeah, in this chapter, probably we will take up this suggestion and make a business analyst session from that class in Academy. Any other questions for the session today and what has been presented by Maria? Okay, if thank you, AK. So if there are no other questions, I hope you all enjoyed this session today. I know you found it valuable compared to the academic class because you said so. So it's definitely added value. You will find this content on YouTube community and also on the event link tomorrow. Thank you all for joining. Thank all the women in RPA. Spread this content forward to other women peers in RPA. And yes, hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
Have a great evening. Bye.